Have you ever wondered if you were claircognizant, which is the psychic ability of just knowing things? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. I want to say welcome to the MediSoul podcast, and I'm your host, Holly Janes, founder of MediSoul Wellness, and you can learn more by going to MediSoulWellness.com. Now, this podcast is where we're going to be talking about spirituality, meditation, the paranormal, and absolutely everything in between. So wherever you are right now, just take a breath, get comfortable, and let's talk about claircognizance. So what is claircognizance? Well, let me ask you something. Have you ever thought of someone right before they called? I know I have. Like, completely out of nowhere, that person just pops in your head, and then the phone rings, and you pick up and it's them. Or how about, have you ever walked into a situation and just instantly knew that something was wrong, even though everything looked completely fine on the surface? Maybe you've woken up in the morning and the answer to something that you've been struggling to try and figure out, all of a sudden, is just in your head. Or maybe you found yourself finishing other people's sentences because you actually knew what they were going to say. Not because you're being impatient, just because you genuinely knew what they were going to say before they said it. Well, if any of this sounds familiar, there's actually a name for what you've been experiencing. And it is not overthinking. It's not coincidence. And it's definitely not just your imagination. What you've been living with or experiencing is called claircognizance. And it's one of the most common psychic abilities everybody carries without ever knowing that it has a name. Most people who have this spend years, often their entire lives, writing off these moments as just luck or good instincts, when what's really happening is something way more significant than that. So let's talk about what claircognizance actually is, what it looks and feels like in absolutely everyday normal life, and how you can start working with it intentionally instead of just stumbling across it every now and then. So let's get into what claircognizance actually is. The word claircognizance comes from the French word clair, which means clear, and cognizance, which means knowledge. Put them together and you get clear knowing. And that description captures claircognizance meaning perfectly. It's the psychic ability to receive information directly into your mind, fully formed, without any logical process to explain how it got there. You didn't research it. You didn't reason your way to it. You didn't feel it in your body or see it in your mind's eye. It just sort of arrived as this knowing. Now, to understand where claircognizance fits in the bigger picture of things, it helps to know that psychic ability doesn't come in just in one form. The intuitive gifts are often grouped under what's called the clairs, and each one describes a different sense as through which psychic information is received. Clairvoyance is clear seeing, meaning images or flashes or visions that appear in your mind's eye or your third eye. Clairaudience, this is clear hearing, meaning you hear words, you hear your name being called, or you hear sounds that either you actually hear or that arrive in your mind without any real physical source. Clairsentience is clear feeling, meaning emotional or physical sensations in your body that comes with information. Then there's the claircognizance, which is that clear knowing that we're talking about, meaning truth that lands directly into your mind as instant, complete knowledge with nothing to see, hear, or feel attached to it. What makes claircognizance unique is that it bypasses the physical senses entirely. There's nothing to see, hear, or feel. The information comes through as thought, which is exactly why so many people miss it. It blends in with regular thinking so seamlessly that the average person assumes the information is coming from their own mind rather than through it. Those are two different things, and learning to tell them apart is part of what psychic development is all about. Claircognizance is also different from general intuition, even though the two get mixed up a lot. Intuition is a broad inner guidance system that most people have, and a subtle sense of what feels right or wrong, or safe or unsafe. Claircognizance is sharper than that. It's more specific, more consistent, and the information it delivers is often detailed in a way that a vague gut feeling just isn't. An intuitive nudge might tell you that something feels off, but claircognizant tells you what is off, and it does it with certainty that doesn't really waver even when your logical mind tries to argue with you against it. Now, there are 7 signs that you are claircognizant. So this is where things get interesting, because most claircognizant people have been experiencing this ability their whole lives without realizing it. And these are the signs that show up most consistently. As you listen through these, notice how many feel like your normal everyday experience, because claircognizant is so ordinary feeling that most people never recognize it as a psychic ability. So one of the things is you just know things without knowing how you know those things. This is the core sign, and everything else on this list actually flows from this. You know things. You can't explain how you know them. You can't point to a source if someone asked you to, and you can't show your work. Yet the information is there, clear as day, and more often than not, it turns out to be exactly right. The thing that separates this from a lucky guess is the pattern. It doesn't happen once or twice in unusual circumstances. It happens regularly across different areas of your life with different kinds of information, and the accuracy rate is high enough that you've started to notice it even if you haven't got a name for what it is, at least until now. That's claircognizance. It's operating through you, whether you have been conscious of it or not. Another thing is solutions pop into your head out of nowhere. So let me ask you this. Have you ever gone to sleep with a problem that you just couldn't find the answer to, and then woken up the next morning and all of a sudden there's the answer in your head just waiting for you as if it's always been there? Or have you been in the middle of a shower or driving to your job or maybe folding laundry, and suddenly that solution to something that you've been trying to figure out for weeks or months just drops in, fully formed, completely clear, and absolutely ready for you to use? That's not your subconscious being extra clever. Although your subconscious is actually very impressive, but that's not what this is. This is clairvoyance doing what it does best, delivering information through a quiet mind. The key is that the solution doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes when you stop thinking so hard. When the analytical noise settles down, your claircognizant kicks in, and that knowing comes through. Claircognizant people who learn to work with this ability on purpose start using that quiet space intentionally, ask questions before bed or before meditation or before going for a walk, and then just stay open to see whatever arrives. Now there's another one, like you think of someone right before they call. Now this one happens so often to claircognizant people that it almost becomes a running joke with their friends and family, saying, well, how did you know I was going to call? Or how did you know it was me? And the honest answer, you knew because your claircognizant picked up on that incoming connection before the physical world delivered it. Your mind received the information that this person was reaching out to you before your phone even rang or buzzed. It's not weird. And it's not a coincidence. This is your claircognizance working exactly as it's designed to do. The more often that this happens, the stronger the signal that your claircognizant is open and active. Another thing that happens is you get gut feelings that are always right, or at least mostly right. So here's a question I want you to sit with and be honest with yourself. How often do you totally bypass a gut feeling or completely ignore it, only to find out later that your gut was completely right? If the answer is more often than you want to admit, that's important information. A claircognizant person's gut feeling are accurate at a rate that goes far beyond statistical chance. You instinctively avoid that road or walk away from that person and put down that contract even when everything on paper looks perfectly fine. When you listen, you're right. When you don't listen because you couldn't justify it logically, you generally end up wishing you had. It's worth noting that the gut feeling claircognizant produces is different from an emotional reaction or a fear response. It's calm, it's clear, and it doesn't escalate or spiral out of control. It's more like a quiet, neutral fact being delivered to you than this dramatic alarm going off. So another thing that you can do is you can tell instantly when someone is lying. This happens to me all the time. Claircognizant people are what many describe as basically you're a human lie detector. You don't need to catch someone in a contradiction. You don't need to study their body language. You don't need any evidence at all. The moment someone opens their mouth and says something that isn't true, you know. The certainty is immediate and usually very specific, not just something feels off, but that particular thing that they said is not true. I get this all the time. This ability can be both incredibly useful and genuinely frustrating because you often know things, but you can't prove it. And the people around you might not fully understand why you are so certain, but over time, the track record speaks for itself. You read people, and your read on these people is consistently accurate in a way that other people find remarkable or scary or impressive, even though you can't explain it. Now, another sign is that these new ideas download into your mind, but they're fully formed. So if you're a creative person, whether you're a writer, a musician, an artist, maybe an entrepreneur or an inventor, you may already be familiar with the experience of an idea arriving completely whole in your mind with no buildup or brainstorming. It just lands in your mind, not as a seed that you have to grow, but as the whole thing already assembled and ready to be used. That is claircognizant, delivering creative and intellectual information from a source beyond your own thinking mind. So, Nikola Tesla, one of the most fascinating inventors in human history, described it this way: "My brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration." Tesla wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was describing exactly what claircognizant feels like from the inside. And he built some of the most revolutionary technology the world has ever seen while operating this way. The information arrives from somewhere else, and your job is to catch it and translate it. The challenge is writing it down fast, because claircognizant downloads come in so fast and so quickly, and you can feel like sometimes they evaporate just as fast as they come in if you don't anchor them down immediately or think about them or analyze them as they're coming in. So here's the thing. Did you check off 3 or more of these boxes? I bet you did. That's not a coincidence. If 3 or more of these signs are a regular part of your everyday life, then claircognizance is already your dominant psychic ability. You've been working with it whether you knew it or not. What changes now is that you have a framework for understanding it, which means that you can start developing it on purpose instead of just kind of stumbling across it every now and then. But why does claircognizance get missed? Well, the main reason that claircognizance goes unrecognized in so many people is that it doesn't look the way most people expect psychic ability to look. When someone says the word psychic, most people picture these dramatic visions, voices from beyond the grave, vivid premonitions that make you move your body back and forth and move around like you see in the movies. Or you hear these loud voices that are talking to you. That's movies. None of that is real. Claircognizant doesn't look like any of that. It just looks like a thought pops in your head, like you're thinking. It arrives as a thought. It arrives as sound and sounds of thoughts or thoughts of sounds. And it blends in with absolutely everything else that is going on in your mind. So naturally, it's almost impossible to flag it as something different unless you know what you're looking for. But there's also the problem of the logical mind doing what it does best, demanding evidence. Claircognizant knowing is certain in the moment it arrives, but the second your logical mind gets involved, all the questions start. How do I know this? Where did that come from? I can't prove this. I should probably ignore this. So you do. And then 3 days later, or 3 weeks later, or even 3 months later, exactly what you knew turns out to be true. Are you going through this? Does this sound familiar? The more often this cycle repeats without you recognizing it as a psychic pattern, the more you accidentally train yourself to distrust your own psychic ability. This is why developing claircognizant looks a little different for everyone. Every person has some degree of claircognizant ability because it's a natural part of how human consciousness receives information. The difference is in how strongly it shows up and how much you've learned to trust it. For some people, it's been firing loudly their whole lives, and all they really need to do is learn to stop second guessing it. For others, though, it's quieter and more subtle, something that needs to be consciously developed and strengthened over time before it becomes a reliable part of how they navigate the world. Either way, the starting point is the same: your awareness. You can't work with something you haven't noticed yet, and you can't trust something you haven't learned to recognize. That's what this is all about, is teaching you this. So let's talk about the crown chakra connection. Claircognizant is seated in the crown chakra, the 7th energy center located at the very top of your head. The crown chakra is your direct energetic connection to higher wisdom, spiritual intelligence, and what many traditions call the collective consciousness, a field of knowledge that exists beyond what any individual mind can access on its own. When this chakra is healthy and open, claircognizant downloads arrive clearly and regularly and consistently. The knowing feels calm, instant, and very grounded. But when this chakra is blocked or sluggish, your claircognizant knowing may still come through, but the information may feel foggy or distant, or doubt is going to come into your mind and quickly override what you received before you even had a chance to act on it. The solar plexus chakra, which is the 3rd energy center located just above your belly button, also plays a key role in claircognizant, specifically in whether or not you trust what you receive. Have you ever gotten a flash of knowing and then immediately felt calm and just had this sense of knowing in your gut that this was true? That's your solar plexus confirming what the crown chakra just received. The two work together. The crown brings the information in, and the solar plexus is what makes it feel solid and real in your body, rather just kind of these fleeting thoughts that you can very easily dismiss. So when both are healthy and open, claircognizant knowing doesn't just arrive in your mind. It lands with physical weight to it, a sense of, yes, this is true, that you feel as much as you think. When your solar plexus is blocked, that grounding doesn't really happen very well. So even accurate claircognizant information floats in and drifts out without ever feeling certain enough to act on it. That's why people with an underactive solar plexus chakra often describe knowing things, but never feel confident enough to trust what they're getting. Signs that your crown chakra may need attention include things like chronic mental fog, persistent self-doubt about your instincts, a feeling of being spiritually disconnected, difficulty with focus or concentration, and a sense of being cut off from any higher guidance, like the divine, your spirit guides. If you recognize those in yourself, targeted chakra work for your crown chakra and your solar plexus chakra is very helpful, and you can do meditations that will directly support these chakras and your claircognizant abilities. Let's talk about claircognizant and your other clairs. So claircognizant is one of several psychic abilities. It's worth taking a moment to understand how they all differ from each other, because in real life, these abilities can often show up together or as pairs or groups, and learning to distinguish them helps you work through each one more accurately. So let's discuss each of these. So first, there's clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is when you see images, mental pictures, flashes of like faces in the back, like in your mind, a color or a symbol or a scene that just appears. You start thinking of these things, seeing ghosts, seeing things with your eyes. It's visual. Clairaudience. This is hearing words, names, music, tones in your ears or in your mind. You could hear them externally or internally. Clairsentience is the physical sensations in your body, like emotional impressions or an energetic read of your own environment or other people. You can just feel it. But claircognizant, this is thought. There's nothing to see, hear, or feel. This is just knowing. In practice, most people have more than one clair going on at the same time, and your dominant clair is whichever psychic ability has been active most throughout your entire life. If you're someone who's always been described as analytical or who processes everything through thought rather than feeling, there's a strong chance that claircognizant is your primary psychic ability. If you're someone who processes everything emotionally, where you feel the energy in the room before anyone has ever said anything, then clairsentience may be more dominant for you. Both can be developed. They all can be developed, but they also can coexist. The key is learning to identify how your information comes through or into you, because that's where your clearest and most reliable guidance lives. So how do you develop and strengthen your claircognizant ability? Well, the good news is that claircognizant develops the same way any psychic ability does. First, awareness, consistent practice, and you have to trust yourself. You can't force it to happen, but you absolutely can create the conditions in which it flows more readily and more clearly. Now, here are some really good, effective practices to help you develop your claircognizant. First, meditation. I am always going to push meditation. This is the single most powerful practice for developing claircognizant, because claircognizant downloads come most easily through a quiet mind, not a mind that's analyzing, planning, reviewing your to-do list, or all over the place, but a mind that's genuinely still and calm. Even just 5 minutes a day of intentional meditation, whether you're sitting in silence, whether you're sitting with a specific intention of receiving rather than achieving anything, maybe you're open up to what comes through you or whatever. As you build a meditation practice, you'll start to notice that insights arrive and after these sessions in ways that they didn't before. That is your claircognizant waking up. The crown chakra responds to stillness and openness, and meditation is the most direct way to give it both. Another thing that you can do to develop your claircognizant ability is automatic writing. This practice has been used in psychic development for a very long time, and it works particularly well for claircognizance because it bypasses the analytical filter of the conscious mind. So here's what you need to do. First, get a journal and get a pen. Sit down and ask your higher self a question. It can be about absolutely anything. A decision that you're trying to figure out, something you're trying to understand, or a relationship you're in the middle of. And then just start writing without stopping, without editing, without lifting your pen. Don't think about what's coming out. Just write. What often happens is information that will come out will genuinely surprise you. The answers didn't come from your conscious thinking, and the insights feel like they arrived from somewhere beyond you because, well, they did. This is claircognizance expressing itself in written form, and with practice, it becomes a very reliable pathway for you to develop this ability. And now you have to learn how to track what you're getting. So one of the fastest ways to build real trust in your claircognizant ability is to start keeping a record of it. When you get one of those quiet, certain flashes of knowing, write it down before you find out whether it's accurate. Date it and record what you got and how it arrived. Then come back to it once the situation has unfolded and note whether you were right. Most claircognizant people who do this for even a few weeks are genuinely surprised by their accuracy rate. Seeing it on paper makes it impossible to minimize or dismiss that this is what you're doing. And this is what starts to build trust faster than any other practice. Here's the other thing that's very difficult to do. You have got to trust your first impressions. Claircognizance almost always arrives first. Before doubt, before analyzing, before your logical mind gets its hands on the information and messes it up. Your first impression of a person, a situation, or a decision is your clearest claircognizant data point. The practice is learning to catch it before you override it and to give it genuine weight in your decision making, even when you can't explain it. This is uncomfortable at first, especially for people who are used to relying on logic for absolutely everything. But the more you act on that first knowing and see it confirmed, the easier it becomes to trust it. And that trust is everything. So why does this matter? Why does any of this matter? Because claircognizance isn't just an interesting psychic quirk. When it is developed and trusted, it genuinely changes how you navigate your life. It gives you access to information your logical mind alone can't reach. It protects you from situations and people that just aren't safe for you. It guides you towards decisions that are aligned with where your soul is actually going. It connects you to your spirit guides, your higher self, and that field of wisdom that holds insight far beyond what any human mind can generate on its own. The fact that you've been living with these experiences, these knowing things, receiving solutions, sensing the truth, reading people, without understanding what they are, is just simply a gap in information. It was always there. It's been operating this whole time. What changes now is that you know what it is. And that means you can start working with it on purpose. Every soul has intuitive capacity. Claircognizant is simply what that capacity looks like when the connection between your mind and higher consciousness is open, active, and ready to deliver. It's not something reserved for people with years of spiritual training or some rare psychic ability. It's already in you, and it always has been. Now, if you're ready to go deeper and any of this resonates with you, MediSoul Wellness is an online spiritual school covering everything from meditation and chakras to intuition development, energy healing, and soul work. The Ascend membership gives you full access to the entire course library filled with guided meditations and a community of people on the same path as you. If you're ready to start developing your intuition, that's the place to do it by simply going to MediSoulWellness.com. Claircognizant is just the beginning. The more you understand about how your intuition works, the more clearly you'll hear everything your soul has been trying to tell you.